Good afternoon to you. Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack here. It's now Saturday, the 3rd of August, 2024. A lot to discuss with you today regarding Tropical Depression 4 down in the extreme southeastern Gulf of Mexico. It's coming off of Cuba now. By the time this video is up and going, it'll be in the southeast Gulf. Going to bring some significant impacts to parts of the Florida west coast. In the interior, you're going to have a lot of heavy rain from this, over a foot of rain in some locations. A slow-moving, pain-in-the-neck system that has the very real potential now of becoming a hurricane. But there are some keys to that happening, and I will go through that and much more with you as we go through today's update. All right? Thanks for joining me on this Saturday. Let's get started. First, interesting tweet here from Phil Klotzbach, Colorado State University. Hurricane watches have been issued for parts of the Florida Gulf Coast due to Tropical Depression 4. 3 hurricanes have made landfall in Florida in August, the month of August only now, since 2000. So going back 24 years, right? We all remember Hurricane Charlie. That was 20 years ago. A year later was Katrina. And then we had nothing in August in Florida, hurricane-wise, until last year at the very end of the month, we had Idalia. And, of course, I was down there with my crew working that one. So now we've got TD4. It is headed towards the Big Bend area of Florida, very similar to what we saw with Idalia last year. So let's zoom in and just kind of take a gander at things. Notice a few things I want to point out. The very bulbous shape to the end of the forecast cone here, that is an indication that it's going to be a slow mover. We don't see it just continuing on out into the Atlantic. So this is going to slow down. It's going to dump a lot of rain. And rain is going to be a big story from this. We're going to see river flooding. I'm going to emphasize this with you. Rain will be the impact that affects the most people. It absolutely will. Millions of people in many states are going to be having to deal with a lot of rainfall, a lot of freshwater flooding. Rivers are going to rise, as I just mentioned, and that is going to be the single largest swath of impacts will be from rain. But then storm surge is also going to be a big problem, first for our friends along the Florida west coast, anywhere where there is onshore flow. I think the concentrated area of the highest surge will be focused up near Cedar Key, areas north and south of there, up towards Horseshoe Beach, Keaton Beach, maybe up towards St. Marks, Florida. It just depends on where the center comes in. People need to take this seriously. It is just a depression right now. Hopefully Floridians know, hey, look, when anything's coming, you have to prepare for the worst and assume that it is going to be an intensifying hurricane as it comes in. We are in early August. We've got record water temperatures. The environment is going to be conducive. The key to this, and I want you to hear me clearly, the key to this will be whether or not future Debby develops an inner core that can consolidate, and if it can do so early enough, this could really ramp up quickly before it reaches the Florida coast there late in the evening, early morning hours, Monday. So late in the evening tomorrow night, early Monday morning. We shall see. Hopefully it doesn't slow down too much, because that really starts to prolong those impacts, excuse me, as you can imagine. So looking at the satellite imagery today, early on, it looks, trying to get better organized. No solid indications of any core forming just yet. Still kind of broad overall. But it has the environment that it needs, a moist atmosphere, light winds aloft. You don't see any clouds tearing off in one direction, what we call wind shear. It's just a matter now of how quickly can this develop an inner core or an eye wall, whatever you want to call it. But that inner core is very, very important. But notice you've got these rain bands already coming in, some of them extending all the way out into the Bahamas and into parts of central Florida, the resort areas over here, extending towards Tampa. So people already getting impacts. Travel gets more difficult when you've got torrential rain falling. And then along the coast, we're going to have the potential for a hurricane warning to go up through here. I think that's coming. I believe that is a shoo-in. That is my opinion, and I'll show you why. I do think this will become a hurricane, and it could be strengthening. In fact, I expect it would all the way up to landfall. So storm surge is going to be, again, in my opinion, based on experience and so forth, storm surge will be the most problematic along this area, but the whole coast down here could experience some storm surge flooding. I'll show you that when we look at the key messages and the other impacts as we go forward. Another big part of this, I mean, I've talked about it the last few videos, 31 degrees Celsius, so upper 80s to almost 90 degrees Fahrenheit across a huge area of the eastern and northeastern Gulf. So there is no shortage of energy for this to tap into some of the warmest Gulf surface temperatures that we have ever seen, especially this early in August. And it is such a vast area. Again, I've said it 2 or 3 different videos this past week. I don't remember that I've ever seen such a huge area of the Gulf covered by that 31 degree isotherm. Isotherm is line of equal temperature. That is just remarkable. And so this really has a lot of fuel to work with. And bring me back on, as I like to say, I want to talk to you and not just at you, like we're sitting around talking about this very seriously together. And one of the things that I see when I see that very warm water, I see high precipitable water values in the atmosphere. All that latent heat is going to get released as very, very heavy rain, and that flooding part of this is going to be serious, all right? And we talk about, our partner Quick Dams. Look, this is one of those situations. I'm not just trying to pitch our sponsor to you, one of our partners. It can be very, very helpful against freshwater flooding. So check it out, quickdams.com, DAMS, and I'll put a link in the description today. You need to go get those supplies. Don't do the sandbags. Seriously, those are environmentally very difficult to deal with. And the Quick Dam boxes of flood bags are very easy. You just put them in the water, and the water activates them, and off you go. You're going to need that for something like this. When I see all that red and orange in there, that is very warm water, very high precipitable water values, and a lot of flooding could be coming your way. And that's just Florida. We're going to have to deal with this across the rest of the southeast going from there. And then you kind of look at it in the bigger picture. Everything is warmer than it should be. Everything. There's this one little patch out here that's average, and then there's one area north of the Yucatan where you've got that southerly flow creates upwelling. Everything else is above normal, above the long-term average. So that's what we need to focus on. People saying, oh, you're hyping it up. You're darn right I am. Because this is going to be a big problem with the flooding, the storm surge at the coast, the power outages that are coming. This is going to be a big mess. You'll see, and we're going to show it to you live from Florida. I'll talk about that at the end of all this. I'll prove it to you. We'll show you. All right, so National Hurricane Center homepage, if you hadn't figured it out by now, a one-stop shop for a lot of great information. A few things I want to point out to you that are extremely helpful, especially if you are in a hurry. All right, you want to know, what's the deal? What do I need to know? Click on this right here, National Weather Service local products. That'll take you to a page that has all the different WFOs, those are the weather forecast offices, and their local statements. And it boils it down. Let me just show you real quick. This is going to be kind of a long video today, but it's important. So there you go. You got Miami, Tampa, Tallahassee, Melbourne, Key West. You click on these, and they tell you what to expect from that region. It is very detailed, and that is what you need. You need to be able to read this and know what to expect locally. Additionally, you've got all these different thumbnails on here. I have blown up a few of them to full size. Key messages, heavy rainfall, I just talked about that. This is going to be a very, very big problem here. A lot of flooding rain is coming. You got to do whatever you can to mitigate it. Do it now. Whatever your supply is going to be, you need to take care of that today and tomorrow, and then that's it. This is going to really start raining on you. Hurricane conditions, absolutely possible. I'll explain more of why I'm thinking that as we go through this. And then the danger of that storm surge. I'll show you the storm surge graphic in a moment. And then, of course, all of this could be happening not just in Florida, but eventually for the southeast coast on the Atlantic side. So we're going to get out of the Gulf, and this is going to head up and then be a menace to parts of the southeast coast from there. Rainfall forecast, this will always change. It's very dynamic. But anywhere in that yellow, and then 3 or 4 gradient points up from there, looks like just 3, which is good. We don't need 4. We don't need that reddish color, crimson color there, 16 to 20. Luckily, nothing like that showing up. But all these other ones, the yellow up through the red, anywhere from 4 to 12 inches, maybe in and around the Charleston area. We'll have to see if this creeps more onshore. That could be very problematic. Even 6 to 8 inches in the low country of South Carolina is problematic. You know that area, downtown Charleston, floods frequently, and this could have some onshore flow. We'll get to that. I'm telling you, this is going to be a really, really big problem for a lot of people to start off the month. Yuck. All right, so looking at the peak surge, this is very important. We do not know exactly, and when I say we, that means me, National Hurricane Center, Weather Service forecast offices around the area, the storm surge unit at the National Hurricane Center. Nobody knows exactly where peak surge will occur with any hurricane until it's basically happening. Very difficult to pin that down because you've got the shape of the coastline, the bathymetry, which is the like the geography and the layout of the bottom of the ocean or the Gulf, whatever the case may be, and then all sorts of local effects like little tiny bays, the mouths of rivers. Everything gets really complicated when you're trying to figure out where's the biggest surge going to be. So broadly speaking, the yellow area is up to 5 feet. I am 5'8", so that means about 8 inches of me, roughly the top part of my noggin, would be above that surge. And then on top of that surge, there will be waves. Most everybody in Florida already knows this, but what if you are brand new, you're vacationing down there, you just went down to one of the camps, and you're like, a few feet won't be a problem. It can be, especially if this is rapidly intensifying up to the point of landfall. These numbers, I said it yesterday, they were all blue, meaning it was like 2 to 4 feet or something. And I said I suspected it'll be higher. Well, here you go. It's higher. Now it's up to 5 feet. And my prediction is we see up to 7 feet, maybe more, as this consolidates and gets going. I fully expect these storm surge forecast numbers will only go up. So you're going to need to prepare for that the best way that you can over a pretty big swath of real estate. And then on top of all that, you're going to have the waves coming in, and anybody enjoying the beaches out there, you're going to have problems with rip currents. So there's a lot to keep up with all of this. Let's get into the modeling. Where is this going to go? What is it going to do? All that kind of stuff. Again, I talked about this yesterday. One simple way to just kind of boil everything down is to go to the Tropical Tidbits site or any other site that puts the overall track guidance on there, which is your consensus models, your hurricane-specific models, some of the ensemble means that are in there. Yeah, people call it the spaghetti plot. And this really gives you a good idea of what all of the models, for the most part, most of the major ones anyway, are quote-unquote thinking. So your envelope, if you want to just kind of close it all off and make an imaginary cone out of it, is kind of like that. The first part of it is fairly straightforward through about 24 hours. This is pretty consolidated, pretty compact. Then we start to get more divergence in the models, right, where the paths begin to diverge, literally divergence in the models. And then it gets really complicated in the longer range, and that is why we have that bulbous shape to the forecast cone, because we don't know what's going to happen up through this area because the steering currents are going to collapse, and this is going to be very slow moving, and that means a lot of prolonged misery for people in the area. You're going to be tired of hearing about Debbie when this is all said and done, because we're talking days and days and days of this. Now, one of the models that is part of that overall spaghetti plot that you're seeing there is the GFS, the Global Forecast System. So I want to show you this and kind of explain why I think this has a very good chance of becoming a hurricane. First of all, we're looking at the very latest one, 12Z today, 12 Zulu time, meaning it was initialized at 8 a.m. Eastern time. There is our area. This is 5,000 feet in the atmosphere, what we call the 850 millibar cyclonic vorticity. And what I want to see is, I guess we use black to make this pop better, how consolidated does the GFS make this as it does its thing over the next 3 to 5 days. And we can watch that, and if the low-level structure looks solid, then everything else above it usually is as well. Usually. So let's move this on out. This is 12 hours, 24, right there. This is Sunday morning. And then throughout the day, look at it. It really very quickly goes from ragged to much more consolidated. I see that and I go, oh boy, here we go. Now here are the players. There's your one high pressure area sitting over here. you are collapsing the overall pattern around this system, so it's not going to be moving very fast. That's the big problem here for many, many reasons. And it finally starts to edge towards the coast there in the Big Bend area. Over or just east of Tallahassee, we'll have to see about that. Monday morning could just be awful along that I-10 corridor through there. And then into the southeast United States it goes. Very slow moving, all that energy trying to unwind and spread out. Lots of heavy rain in the low country of South Carolina, eastern Georgia, northeast Florida. And then it finally tries to get back its organization, and then it makes landfall at day 5 in the low country of South Carolina. Let's back this up a little bit because I want to show you. Actually, I've got the other panel right here. I forgot. I already had it ready. So now let's look at it from the wind perspective, 10-meter wind and the mean sea level pressure. So let's see where we start. 1,009 millibars to begin, and then it drops very quickly to the low 980s there. And in fact, if we zoom in to the southeast U.S. view that Dr. Cowan has put into his map extents, very nice tool, we see 983 hurricane force winds around the center there easily, and it makes landfall there in the Big Bend just east of St. Mark's on this particular run 48 hours out. So that would be Monday morning. And then it's a very slow mover with lots of wind and rain and all kinds of unpleasantries around the area, maybe trying to become a hurricane once again. We'll have to see about that. Now here's my concern for our friends in South Carolina. The slow movement of it and that onshore flow, you can just follow these wind barbs right around Georgetown, Myrtle Beach, and especially Charleston. The harbor there is just going to get the wind funneled into the harbor. High tide after high tide, with all that heavy rain, we could be looking at some significant flooding in the downtown Charleston area once we get to about midweek. So please keep that in mind. So it comes in, quickly gathers itself right before landfall there. That's problematic. Certainly, people are going to really be taken by surprise by that because everybody ignores it until it's strong. That's just typically how people are. That's the way the human species goes, right? Yeah, you got to look at the bigger picture, and then it just lingers and lingers, and then finally gets itself out of the pattern, hopefully by mid to late week. All right, what are we going to do about it from the HurricaneTrack team? I, unfortunately, for this situation, am not there. I'm on a cruise ship in the Pacific Ocean, going to Victoria, British Columbia tomorrow. I've been up in Alaska with my family, trying to get everything done before August 20th. Well, I mean, we're going to be back Monday. But I figured, all right, we got a little bit of a time span in there. July is usually dead, even in a big active season. And it came to bite me. But we have a team. It's not just me. I might be the face of everything you see on YouTube, but we have a great team of people that help out. That being said, we have a gentleman that is heading down, our colleague from Brazil, Marcel. He lives up in the Raleigh area of North Carolina, and he is going to be taking down a couple of our camera systems with one of our pressure sensors, and we're going to put these somewhere in the path of what would presumably be, and I think it will be, Hurricane Debby. I can already tell you know what I'm going to say. One of them is going to go in Cedar Key. Absolutely. We always put something in Cedar Key when something comes into the Big Bend area. The other camera system, don't know yet. We've got some ideas. We will fine-tune that as we go through the coming hours, and it will be live. And later today, Marcel will have his live, it's actually the team's live cam. Usually it's in my truck. They'll have it in his truck. He's got a huge, I think, Ford F-250. He has a company, by the way, where he puts in stained glass windows and does restoration for churches. It's a company that he owns, and when he can get away from that, he can help us out with hurricanes and other severe weather. So a huge thank you to Marcel and our entire back-end team to handle all of this. And I'm certainly able to do this because we have internet on the ship here, coordinating from way over here off the coast of the Pacific Northwest. But yeah, we'll have a live cam going from Marcel later today. So all of our HurricaneTrack Insider folks on Patreon, you'll be able to tune in later today. And then tomorrow morning around 10 a.m., we'll go live publicly on YouTube, and we will have those two cameras going. Why only two? It's a big deal to set these things up. I figured the Nature Coast is a tough area let's just do 2 for now. I get back Monday, and I'll handle whatever's going on in the low country of South Carolina. Obviously, I'm going to have plenty of time for all of that. If this thing ever even gets back out over the ocean, there's a chance that it never does. We'll address that as we go along. So watch for our camera, our signature shot there, and you know it if you've been following us long enough, what's coming there from Cedar Key. That'll actually be up later today. So again, all of our Hurricane Track Insider folks via Patreon, log in, get on the Discord, check it all out, and then we'll figure out where we're going to put the next one. We've got some ideas. Going to play our cards close to our chest until it's just about the last moment, and then I'll tell Marcel where to put that cam, because it's the one that has the Kestrel in it for pressure data, and that's going to be live. We're going to be able to watch that pressure drop live, and these will all be on Fox Weather, of course, too. So that's awesome, and they actually have Mike Seidel. I didn't even know that. They kept it secret from me. How about that? Mike Seidel over at Fox Weather now. All right, also, real quick, I can't ignore this. 20 years ago, this whole project got its start with the remote cams. I mean, we start much sooner than that. My career was all the way back to 1995 and 1996 when I had my first hurricane experiences professionally with Bertha and Fran. But 8 years later, 2004, 20 years ago now, we were on the Outer Banks of North Carolina dealing with Hurricane Alex. It was a Category 2 at this point. Jesse Bass, John Van Pelt, and myself out on the Outer Banks. We went out and had no equipment like we've got now. We had our Chevy Tahoe with its anemometer. We measured a peak wind gust of 105 miles per hour. I don't remember exactly what the pressure was. Maybe it's in Jesse's diary over here. Jesse at vastormphoto.com. I'll put a link to this in today's description. This is the running diary that he did many years ago. Look at that old mobile threat net. Now we have radar scope. This was XM satellite weather. It was from Barron's, called Mobile Threat Net. We were some of the first people to ever use it. That is true. It's I mean, look, it's from, I have the proof. There you go. So we were using that when we didn't have anything else, and we got down to Hatteras and worked in Hatteras Village. Met up with a family down there, the Harrisons, and we used their DSL connection with a phone cable to have internet in the Tahoe, literally connected with a cable, I'm not joking, into their house for internet so we could see what the heck was going on. And then the mobile threat net at least was updating the radar pictures in the vehicle. As you can see here, this is Jesse's vehicle, and that's a shot of the mobile threat net. There's the eye and eye wall of Hurricane Alex got closer. Just remarkable stuff. I'm glad Jesse archived all of this for everybody to see all these years later. We almost got into the eye, very close to us at Hatteras Village there. We were in the eye wall, that is for sure. There's the anemometer readings. It started getting really blustery, and the storm surge started coming in. Very, very close. And then we had northerly winds screaming down the Pamlico Sound here, right into Hatteras Village and Ocracoke, flooding hundreds of cars. People lost their vehicles because of that. And the winds there, 57 gusting to 92 in Jesse's vehicle. Yep, and then the surge started coming up. There's the old Tahoe there. There's John taking some pictures. Unfortunately, John passed away January of 2023, so he's no longer with us. But what an adventure we had out there together that began the saga that has led to everything that we're doing now with the Hurricane Landfall Project, with remote cams, the whole bit. That had its start out on the Outer Banks, and it's on YouTube. Terrible quality. 20 years ago. What can you do, right? YouTube wasn't even around yet. I uploaded this, I don't even remember when, doesn't matter, but I will put a link to this as well. You can watch the documentary of Tracking the Hurricanes 2004. It all started 20 years ago, and now, all these years later, a dude from Brazil, a geographer just like me, is going to go to Florida and set up these tiny little boxes and show you what potential Hurricane Debby is going to do, point blank range with live pressure readings. It's remarkable. We've come a long way in 20 years, and a big part of that reason is because of you guys watching on the other side of the screen, right? Absolutely. So with that, I'll sign off, process this video, and get it online for you. A lot to track. I'll be keeping up with it. Of course, I'll have another video for you tomorrow. We dock Monday morning, get on the airplane, or at least I will. The family will come home later, and we'll be ready for whatever happens on the southeast coast of the United States from there. But for now, Marcel's got it under control, and we look forward to seeing those camera images later today and through tomorrow. All right? Have a good rest of your Saturday from all of us at the HurricaneTrack family. Thank you for watching. I'm Mark Sudduth. See you again tomorrow.